Another guy who doesn't need the ball but would like it more than he's getting it right now is probably the biggest name that's already known to be on the trade market, and that's Kevin Love. 3 years left on a big contract after this one. Cleveland is going nowhere this year. It's clearly not a part of their long-term future. There seems to be a pretty big dissonance around the league between what Cleveland thought they could get for Kevin Love when they gave him this big contract extension and what teams right now are willing to give up for him. So I'll just put it to you. Will they be able to get a young player and a first-round pick or either one for Kevin Love if and when it comes to it?
I think they're looking at a marketplace. And you could say this not only about Kevin Love, but we'll go through some of the other names later. I don't know that there's a veteran here they're getting back a big haul. Drew Holiday, yes. But Kevin Love, I think you're looking at a marketplace where they'll get probably a protected first-round pick and maybe an expiring contract and then maybe a throw-in player. There's some teams, Portland was a team that has had interest in Love in the past. They have the big expiring contracts there. And I think if you're going to take on that $90 million for Love, you're a team, if you think he can impact you, it's as your third best player, maybe even your fourth best player somewhere. That's a lot to pay that. But I don't think anybody thinks Kevin Love puts them over the top, even as their second best. But they'll be interested in him as we get closer. And I think Kevin Love is ready to go. He is not this rebuild in Cleveland with John Beilein, a college coach. He has shown at some different times here, less than an abundance of patience about being around. He could make it so they feel, let's get him moved now. If he's in this environment, not great to have around a first-year NBA coach and a young roster.
Well, he took the greatest 3-second violation in the history of the NBA the other day in Philadelphia when he finally, here it is, watch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It just keeps going. And this does not look like a player who's super psyched to be playing with Colin Sexton and Darius Garland. And look, Kevin Love is still really good. And I think they will get a first-round draft pick for Kevin Love. I still think one of these teams, like it's Portland, I think Phoenix will sniff around. I think we'll see some unexpected teams come out and say, okay, that's all the price is. And if you're Portland, you're making that deal for next year more than this year. Because if it involves Whiteside going out, he's a big part of your team right now. But you have Yusuf Nurkic coming back. And then you put McCollum, Lillard, Love, Nurkic. Like you can roll with that.
Right.
That's fun. Another team that is going to have a hard look at what it is and what it is going forward is Detroit. Andre Drummond can be a free agent after this year. Blake Griffin limped off the floor last night. A sad scene.
We don't know MRI today.
We don't know what's quite going on there. What's the plan for the Pistons?
So Andre Drummond has been a favorite of owner Tom Gores. He loves Andre Drummond. They've also not won anything with a lot of their salary built around Drummond. There's a conversation that is going to go on in Detroit between now and the trade deadline, and certainly sooner than the trade deadline.
It's got to be sooner.
Do we want to extend him? Do we want to stay in the Andre Drummond business? Or is it time to move off of him, see what his value is around the league, and start to reshape this nucleus in Detroit? That is a conversation that's coming very soon in Detroit.
One last buyer, and they almost fit here because there are rumblings about whether they need more size and more beef. Dallas is way better than expected, even with Luka Doncic out now for a little while. We don't know how. It took maybe 2 weeks. Tim McMahon reported. Now they've traded those 2 picks to the Knicks, so they don't have a ton to give up. Tim Hardaway's semi-expiring is a player option. He's probably going to take it, actually. What do you expect them to do?
Whether it's at the trade deadline or whether it's this summer, I think they would like a big physical presence to put alongside Porzingis, Doncic, and Andre Drummond. How about a Montrezl Harrell with the Clippers if they can't afford to keep him? He becomes a free agent.
He's paid a lot of money.
He is. And so that kind of player, look at through the years, Mark Cuban, the guys they've gone after, DeAndre Jordan, Dwight Howard. What other big centers am I missing? There was another one.
Well, they had Tyson Chandler for a while.
Yeah, so
Clint Capella they've been linked to before in trade.
Yeah, so that's a position that they've had of need. And so, I think you watch Dallas. They don't have to. They're making long-term decisions. They don't have to do that here by the trade deadline, but they can be opportunistic.
First of all, if the Mavericks want a big hulking presence, they have the guy who starred as a villain in John Wick 3, Boban Marjanovic, barely even playing. They can use him. And I think they're actually very similar. They're sort of like Boston West in that they have all of these sort of center by committee guys that are not household names. They're not even like sub-household names. Dwight Powell, Maxi Kleber, like those guys are playing well. And I'm not sure whatever upgrade exists between those two and giving Porzingis some minutes at center to Drummond is worth giving up Tim Hardaway, who's shooting the lights out for them lately.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For highlights and analysis, check out the ESPN app. And for live streaming and premium content, check out ESPN+.